Hey, my internet foodie friends, welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, my name is Amanda. I like to cook without recipes, and I want to try to show you how you can start cooking without relying so much on a recipe and using the things that you've got in your fridge and your pantry and customize recipes so that your family isn't saying, "Mom, I don't like this." So tonight I am making something that I haven't made in a very long time. So my brain's gonna be working on overdrive because like, how did I make this again? But that's my favorite way to cook. Basically it's round steak, also sometimes called a cubed steak. And it's got some Greek flavors and it's almost kind of like a stew. It's so good. So let's just get going and we will, I'll explain a little bit more as we go along. All right, so what is one of the best smells in the entire world? Well, if you say onions cooking in bacon grease, you would be right. So we're gonna start this off that way. I've got a couple pieces of bacon. So I went ahead and put that on like medium because I'm not ready for it yet, but I want it to start getting warm. Come on, bacon, come out. I've got a couple pieces of bacon here. Oh, come on. There we go. And I've actually got a pair of scissors because I didn't really want to get a cutting board with bacon grease on it right now, or bacon fat. So I'm actually just cutting this into some little pieces, and I think this was 2 pieces of bacon because that's what I had in my package. If you had 3, you know, more bacon is always better than less bacon, but you know, whatever. All right, so I prefer to try to buy nitrate-free bacon, so that might be something you look into. I try to use foods that have as minimal processing as possible. Hey, Watson, can you say hi? Watson, he's like, I want bacon. You're not having bacon. He didn't quite show up on film there. All right, I'm gonna wash my hands and grab a spoon. Okay, so this is a, like a soup pot, just because we're gonna be throwing a lot of ingredients in there. Like I said, this kind of cooks up like a stew, and I just want the tall walls to give me some extra wiggle room, so I'm not having to like try to be super careful about making sure stuff doesn't spill over. All right, so I'm gonna put this kind of on low. So I just want the bacon grease to kind of render out, and so that way it gives our onion something to cook on. All right, let me go ahead and, speaking of onion, I've got myself a sweet onion here, and we're gonna dice it up. All right, so I'm just gonna cut off the ends and cut it in half. And get it going here. So this is a dish, like I said, I used to make, like when I was first married, I made it fairly often. And then it's just one that kind of I forgot about over time. I don't know why. Normally when I cook round steak, I do it more of the traditional Southern way with mashed potatoes and gravy. And you kind of, it's almost like chicken fried steak sort of way that I cook it, except I found ways to make it a little bit leaner where you aren't actually deep frying it. Uh-oh, I just dropped onion everywhere. That was pretty klutzy. Hold on, I'm gonna pick this up. All right, but this is another version, and I think there is a fairly authentic Greek meal that is based on this, but I probably should have researched it before I did the video, but you know, that's just how I fly. So I'll try to do some research before when I'm doing the editing. So I'm gonna call this like Greek inspired, if you use the word inspired. All right, turning this up now because I'm ready to put the onions in here. There's not quite, no, Watson, There's not quite enough bacon grease in there for my onions, so I'm gonna add some butter. And then we'll get our onions in here. And we'll talk a little bit more about this meat. So I don't know if you've ever cooked with round steak or cube steak. I grew up calling it round steak, but that was in Texas. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, it's labeled, well, no, this one does say cube steak now. No, yeah, I grew up calling it round steak. Up here it's called cube steak. And when the first time I was at the grocery store, I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. And then they had something else called round steak that didn't look the same. So what I'm talking about is this meat, and I'll explain why mine's brown. It's usually more red in the grocery store, but it's already been tenderized for you through their machinery. And it's usually a fairly cheap cut of beef. In Texas, it's way cheaper than it is up here. This is, I paid $6.74 for two. I think there's 2 large pieces in here. I think in Texas, this is a lot cheaper. But it's still a fairly affordable beef. And the reason why mine is brown, and you're probably like looking at the date, this has been in the freezer, so don't worry, it's not old. But when meat does start to, like if it sits in your refrigerator for a couple of days, it will start to oxidize and the redness will go away and it'll turn brown. So when I got home from the grocery store, I put this in the refrigerator. I was planning on making this, I don't know, like a week or 2 ago. And then I realized, hey, it's not happening. So I just stuck it in the freezer so the meat wouldn't spoil. And now I'm finally ready to cook it. So I've had it thawing out all day and hopefully it's not still frozen. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I've got a bowl of flour, just like a good scoop of it. I'm just kind of stirring these onions. Oh, let me put some garlic in here before we get going on that though. Oh my goodness. Where are the garlic cloves that have the big fat? I like the big fat ones. Lately, all my garlic has been teeny tiny cloves. Okay. I'm gonna use some garlic powder too. So I'm just gonna use a couple cloves here. So when you smash it like that, then if you're lucky, the paper will peel right off. All right, give this a rough chop and we'll get it in there with the onions. That hopefully you can see a little bit and I'll show you more as it gets going. All right, it's a nice quiet Saturday here. There hasn't been much construction going on. I live in a new development, and so we have a couple houses around us that are under construction. It's really nice when they all are on break, but in a couple weeks, we're gonna have like 5 new families moving in around us. It's gonna be so exciting. I can't wait to meet my neighbors. I've met several neighbors on my street already, and everybody's so great. All right, so I'm adding some salt to this flour and some pepper. And some garlic powder and garlic salt. I mean, not garlic salt, garlic powder. I don't buy garlic salt because I want to control my own salt. Actually, this is the onion powder, and that was the garlic powder. I really need to label these, but the garlic one is a little bit more yellow. That's how I keep it tracked. All right, and then I'm going to use one of my little adorable forks. Aren't these like the most precious things ever? I got these at IKEA, and they're just perfect for all kinds of stuff, like getting olives out of the jar, stirring, seasoning into your flour. All right. So we're not actually frying these steaks. What I'm doing with the flour is I'm just gonna coat the beef in the flour really quick, and then I'm gonna put it in a skillet or in this pot. And the flour will kind of like cook off into the sauce and thicken it up. It's just kind of a different way. So I'm adding a little bit more avocado I'm adding avocado oil because that's just what I have back there. But I want enough grease that this flour doesn't stick to the bottom of my pan. Okay, so let me get my steaks ready. And like I said, they were frozen this morning, so they're still a little. All right, so again, this is kind of what they look like. And so they're probably going to be called either round steak or cubed steak. And they've got that kind of stretchy, so they've been pre-tenderized, because these things, you have to cook them for a long while or they are tough. So this is not a quick meal. This is a, hey, it's Saturday, we're gonna let it sit in the sauce and cook for a while. All right. But this is kind of a nice recipe because you can just dump everything in here, cover it and simmer it and let it do its thing. All right. And if you do take the time to actually coat this in flour and then like lightly fry them up and then take them out of the pan and then do your sauce. Like there's a way that you can make this a little bit more elaborate and get a little bit more flavor in your beef, but this is the faster version. Wow, this is a big old piece, but don't worry because some of these will fall apart a little bit as they're cooking. Wow, look at this. That's the daddy piece. All right. So I'm just kind of, like I said, I'm just stacking them in here. I'm not really worried about it. This is a just kind of dump and go recipe. And I'm gonna like get the sauce kind of in there, in and around it. All right, I'm gonna wash my fingers. Okay, I'm gonna lower this because I can hear it kind of sticking. And let me grab some tomato paste from the, okay. So I've got some tomato paste, and this is homemade chicken stock just because I have it. Normally I'd use beef stock, but I don't have any tonight, so we're not gonna use beef stock. All right, this is a jar of fire roasted diced tomatoes. Use whatever tomatoes you have in your pantry. If you've got petite diced or stewed would actually probably be better. This is what I have, so this is what I'm using. But any kind of like canned tomatoes. And then I'm gonna put this chicken stock down in there, and I'm gonna use about 2 cups or so. And then here's the thing, you wanna make sure that this gets worked down to the bottom and in between all the layers of your meat. So here, let me see if I can, I'm trying to work this down, get the sauce kind of worked in between the layers, okay? And then I might be adding some more chicken stock here in a minute. So this is why I wanted a big stock pot, because I want, I don't want to have to worry about spilling it over the edges. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit more. Okay, so you might wonder why my chicken stock is all gloppy. If you've never done homemade chicken stock before, you would be like, Amanda, there's something wrong with your chicken stock. This is amazing. This is what you want your chicken stock to do. I made this in the Instapot. What that is that's the gelatin from the bones. And that is so full of so many nutrients, good for your joints. And I mean, it is just like, when your chicken stock gels up like that, you've won. You're the winner. Okay. So now you can use some tomato paste, or if you've got tomato sauce and you want to add some of that. Just to give it a little bit more intensity of that tomato flavor. Kind of work that down into the sauce. Plus it kind of help the color. And if you use beef broth, that kind of is a nicer color for this too, honestly. I can't believe I forgot to buy beef broth. Okay, now I'm gonna open up this can of green beans. So I used to have like a little electric can opener under the cabinet, but I don't use canned stuff that often, and so I just prefer having like a little one that doesn't take up so much space. Okay, I'm gonna drain these and rinse them because I don't like the flavor of the liquid that they pack it in, so I rinse them off. Okay, I'm gonna dump these in here. Like I said, this is kind of like a dump recipe, and trying to decide if I want more green beans out of that or is that enough. I've got a lot of meat in here, and so it's gonna take leftovers. I mean, it's gonna make leftovers. So I'm gonna grab some more green beans. I just remembered I had some left over from the other night. These were just cooked up. So I'm just gonna add these green beans to the pot. Good way to use up a leftover side dish that we had. They were just boiled with a little bit of garlic. So nothing too fancy there. Now I'm going to add a bay leaf and some oregano. Oh my gosh, these are fresh bay leaves. I just bought them. Like, if you open your bay leaf jar and you can't smell them, they've been in your counter, your spice drawer too long, and they're not gonna impart that much flavor to your dish. Okay, so this is some oregano, and same thing. You should be able to smell your spices. And I can just pretty much guarantee you we're gonna need more salt. And we'll probably need more pepper too, but I'll taste that in a little bit. Okay, working this all down in here. It's kind of difficult, but because we got more ingredients to add to this. Like I said, this is gonna make leftovers. It's kind of like a stew. So good though. Okay, got quite a mess going on, but we'll deal with it. All right, potatoes. I got two, but I don't know if I'm gonna use both of them or not. Let's see. It probably needs both of them though. Like I said, with how much meat I have in there, I wanna make sure everyone has enough potatoes to eat with it. Okay, oh, I've got this on low. I need to kick this guy back up. So what I wanna do is bring this up to a simmer, and then I'm going to cover it and let it cook for about 45 minutes. And I will check on it every once in a while just to make sure that the bottom isn't sticking. And after about 45 minutes, I'm going to check to see if my meat is tender. And because the potatoes will be done by then for sure. And actually, I probably shouldn't put the potatoes in all the way yet. But yeah, I'm going to let it cook for about 15 minutes before I add the potatoes in, because I don't want my potatoes to turn into mashed potatoes, because they will cook at a different time. But again, I don't want this on a rip-roaring boil. I want this at a low simmer. So my potatoes are probably going to oxidize a little bit. They'll turn a little bit brown. If I didn't want them to, I could put them in some salt water or under some lemon water, but I really don't care that much. So I'm just gonna let them sit there. I'm gonna let this, like I said, I'm gonna let this come up to a simmer. We're gonna cover it. Here, let me show you what it's looking like. So it's not the most gorgeous thing yet, but it's gonna all come together. Actually, I think I'm gonna add some more tomato paste. Let's do that. Tomato paste or tomato sauce? How liquidy is this? And once I add my potatoes, I'm gonna add another can of tomato sauce. So instead of diced tomatoes, this is actually tomato sauce. So, you know, if you're watching me here, you're probably like, what the heck? Well, here's the thing. Like, a lot of times with baking, if you change something in a recipe, there's going to be some dire consequences. But when you're cooking, like, you can kind of make it up as you go. You can just kind of decide, oh yeah, this is what I want. See, I wanted to add more tomato sauce, mostly because it wasn't looking that pretty. And remember, we cook with our eyes. I mean, we eat with our eyes just as much as we eat with our taste buds. So I wanted it, oh, this looks so much better, guys. Okay. Again, I'm gonna let this cook for about 45 minutes and we'll come back together and check on it, all right? All right, okay, so it's actually been about 30 minutes. This has been simmering. It's actually, I've got it on low, but this front burner puts out a lot more heat, so it's at a low boil, but hopefully it'll be good. All right, I'm gonna open it up. Always open away from you so that you don't blast yourself with the steam. And I'm just gonna check on the tenderness of the meat. I'm gonna get 2 forks and kind of like pull it up and just see. Oh, look, see, it's starting to tear apart, so that's good. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add my potatoes. And I was kind of thinking about it. Okay, so I want to add them in kind of like a medium-sized chunk, I think. I grew up in Texas, and my meemaw was from Alabama, so deep south. And in the south, they tend to cook green beans down to nothing. So that's kind of how I'm used to it. If you like your green beans not cooked down as much, I would not have added them at the same time. I would add them now with the potatoes. But I like my green beans cooked. Like, to death. But I just realized that most people probably don't like them cooked down as much, unless you're from the South. And if you are from the South, give me a shout out down in the comments below and let me know if you agree. How do you like your green beans? My meemaw used to cook them in a pressure cooker with bacon, and they would cook for a very long time until they were, I mean, not mushy, but they were just well done. All right, I'm not doing this in the most efficient way, but basically I'm trying to make them about the same size, and they're about 1-inch-ish cubes. And see, like what I'm talking about, this side is a little bit more brown than that side because it started to oxidize while I had it sitting out here on my cutting board. But that's just an appearance thing, and it's really not going to change anything about the flavor of the potato. All right, now I want to carefully drop these in because, again, we got very hot liquid here. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to use a spoon to lower them in, especially since I'm going to need a spoon to stir. Anyway, let me go to grab one. Oh, dang it. There we go. So, one thing about having a more minimalist kitchen, which is what I like, everything always seems to be in the dishwasher. So I have 2 spoons that are like serving spoons like this. So yeah, if you load them up, if you're worried about splashing, load them up on your spoon and then drop it in. Now, the potatoes are gonna cook off some starch and help thicken up the sauce a little bit too. So like I was feeling like maybe I put a little bit too much chicken stock in here. So this meat is starting to fall apart. What we want, all right, let me show it to you, and then we're gonna put the lid back on, cook it for another about 15 minutes. Let those potatoes cook. And again, at a low. I mean, I've got this on low. Otherwise, your potatoes will start to fall apart. We'll be back in a little bit. Oh, I forgot to say, we're gonna put the lid back on while the potatoes are cooking. All right, guys. Okay, so it's been about 12 minutes, I think. Watson, my dog, is right underneath my feet. I'm gonna turn this off. Well, actually, hold on. I'm not going to turn it off yet because, like Like I said, the liquid looked like it was a little, we'll see how it is with the potatoes, right? So my potatoes should be cooked through. Yeah, see, they're fork tender, so that's good. But it's still looking a little bit more liquidy than I would prefer. So what I'm gonna do is make a slurry. So I've got some of the reserved flour from earlier, and I'm just gonna mix a little bit of water. And I know raw meat touched this flour, but we're about to put it in boiling liquid, so it's gonna cook through. And you want to make sure that you get all of the lumps out. So I'm using a fork, but I probably should use a whisk. But if you put raw flour into hot boiling liquid, it will lump up. But if you get it wet like this and make a slurry and then pour it in, it will just thicken up your sauce or your stew or whatever. Okay, got most of the lumps. Well, yeah, I got them out. Okay, so I'm gonna just pour this in, give it a second to boil. I know it seems counterproductive. You're like, it's so liquidy, now we're adding more liquid, but it will help thicken it up. Just give it a second to I'm kind of scraping the bottom because some of that flour also that was on the beef kind of has stuck a little bit. But look at that. It's now a lot more thick. It tastes like amazing. You got that subtle, I mean, there was only a couple pieces of bacon in here, but it's just subtle throughout. And then you got the oregano and the salt, and I didn't even need to add any more pepper. If you like a lot of pepper, add more. But oh my goodness, this is gonna be so delicious. I'm gonna plate some up and call the family down for dinner here in a minute. I wanna take a moment to, oh here, let me just show you a close-up real quick before I say my thank you speech. So here it is, nice one pot meal with green beans, meat, and potatoes. So yes, I want to take a moment to thank you guys for watching. If you would take a moment and hit the free subscribe button, that helps my channel grow and lets me know that you like my content. And leave some comments below. I would like to know if anybody else has made a dish of some variety like this. It isn't something that I've heard many of my friends talk about, so I'm just curious where its origins are. My mom used to cook it, and I've cooked it, but like I said, none of my close friends have ever made it. So, and if you are one of my close friends and you have made it, and I just haven't had a conversation about it with you, I would love to know that too. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope y'all are all having a really good weekend, although by the time this goes up, it'll probably be past the weekend, so I hope you've had a good weekend, and I will see you all soon. Thank you.